Okay, so I'm going to go through the solution for the case study, the first part of it. This is the first part of the case study where we just look at the fully allocated cost calculation. So I'm going to do it in the same sort of methodology that we've been doing up to now, where we do it for material, labor, and overhead costs. Of the case study, we're doing overhead cost allocation in a traditional method. So in order to start the case study, I look at the raw material cost or the material cost first. And I need to define what the batch is. And in this case, I'm deciding a batch of 25. And the reason I chose 25 is that I know that 1 in 25 items is bad. So that just gives me a round number where I know if I start with 25, I'll end up with 24. We could also do the batch where it's one item. And that there isn't, if you did it that way, we should get the same answer. So anyway, my batch is 25, so that means I'm going to get 25, and each keychain that weighs 4 ounces, but we don't really care how much it weighs, is 10 cents each. So that just gives me $2.50 for this value of R, and I'm using the equation R minus V over N. Now for the recycling value, it says that 1 in 25 are bad keychains and they will be recycled. So this is 1, because if we start with 25, 1 in 25 is bad, and the keychains each weigh 2 ounces. In addition, for every keychain that's made, starts with 4 ounces and it gets machined down to 2 ounces. So that means for all of them, all 25 of them, there's going to be a 2 ounce waste. So 25 times 2 ounces. And then I need to convert, this is into ounces, so I need to convert it to pounds. And then it's 20 cents a pound for the recycling, which gives me 65 cents. And then N value is 24, because it's 24 out of 25 are good. So then I just do R minus V over N, and I get this value for the raw material cost. Now moving on to labor cost, it tells us how long it takes to do the processing for each item in the lathe, the grinder, and the packaging. But the first thing I need to do is to figure out what are all the taxes. And I'm going to look at the taxes for the cost of the company, and not the take-home pay, but just the cost to the company. And if you look at that, the sheet that I gave you that is on Polylearn, you can see that these are generally all the costs of the company. The only thing we need to decide is, should workers' compensation, what should the workers' compensation value be? And it seems that there's going to be 2 types of workers in this factory. One is that's going to be working in the manufacturing floor. And then we also have this clerical person, which is she works in the office. Now for labor costs, I don't really need that. It's going to be used in overhead, but I'm just noting it here so I don't have to recalculate it. Now what I then do is I look at the time to process times the cost. So it says that the lathe takes 2 minutes for each part, and there's 25 parts. Again, I'm using a batch of 25 in this case, at least for the lathe. And then I need to convert that to hours, and then they get paid $10 an hour, and then I have to add the taxes, which is this value, 1 plus 20.75%. And then I'm going to divide that by 24. I could have, instead of putting 25 up here and 24 down here, I could have divided this by 0.96, and it would have been the same answer. So then I get this value. And then for the grinder, it takes half a minute, and I need to convert that for hours, times the rate plus the taxes, and that's the value. Packaging takes 5 minutes to do 100, so I'm going to convert that for 100 units. And then I convert that to hours, and they get paid $7 an hour, so that's the value. I add these 3 values up, and I get that for the labor cost. On the overhead side, I just have to go through all of the overhead costs, which is everything else that hasn't been included already. We have the receptionist, the owner, the rent, and the other. So for the receptionist, remember up there I had calculated up here, I calculated this labor rate, so I mean the tax rate. So the reception gets paid $8 an hour, and I need to add the taxes. She works 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. In addition, it says she has 2 weeks off, and I'm assuming that when a receptionist is gone, you need to find a temporary worker. So I am going to say that I also have to pay for 2 weeks, maybe that's 3. I can't remember if that's, I don't know if that says 2 or 3, but let's just say 2 weeks a year, and then times the 40 hours a week plus $8 plus this rate, because I'm going to pay this person the same. So what I'm actually doing is I'm paying for 52 weeks a year, but 2 of those weeks I'm double paying in. So that gives us the cost of the receptionist. The owner, again, the owner, we're assuming that he works inside the office, so we're using this lower rate for workers' comp. $2,000 a month times 12 months is this. The rent is just $12,000 a year, and then other is $6,000 a year. So I add that all up, all those values up, and then I look at the production rate. It says it's $50,000 per unit per year. So that then I just completely allocate all of this overhead over each of the units. This is the traditional method. So that gives me $1.31. So then I'm adding all of these values together, and I get $191.87 per part.